100th edition of Good Karma Wrestling. I'm Gabe Neitzel from ESPN Milwaukee. With me, as always, Brian Rowitz from ESPN West Palm. Catch him ESPN 1000 in Chicago. He is Jonathan Hood. 100 episodes, boys. Can't believe we made it.
They said it would never happen. They said, oh, this is a nice little for the company. We've never done anything like this before. An actual digital show, a show that's on YouTube, a show for everybody that's around the Good Karma stations. And guess what? We made to 100 episodes, bro. It's congratulations to us, but congratulations to our audience with us. We thank you so much for tuning in on YouTube and the podcast. 100 episodes. Can't believe it, but we're here.
Yeah, I mean, a big shout out to the audience because this felt like one of those, like, well, we like the three of them. Sure, they can go have some fun and talk about wrestling and put it on our Twitter. That's fine. But the numbers have been there. People are growing. People are recognizing us in Chicago. Like, there's a reason we got here 100. The audience is a big part of that. So, yeah, pat us on the back.
Yeah, so a lot of fun things.
Horwitz on today.
A lot of fun things we're going to be doing here throughout the 100th episode. Evan Cohen, who is, I guess, the creator of this show, he is going to be joining us if you want kind of a behind-the-scenes look of how this whole thing came together 100 episodes ago. And also, we're going to be joined by one of our favorites, Daddy Magic, Matt Menard, going to be joining us here for our 100th episode. But because we are getting towards the end of the year, we did this last year as well, we're going to take a look back and see what happened throughout the course of 2023. We're going to hand out some GKW awards. We've got 4 of them we're giving out this year. We have our storyline of the year. We're going to do male wrestler of the year, the female wrestler of the year, and then we're going to finish up with our match is of the year. Because, I mean, we've kind of grown away from match of the week. So I think we're going to be shouting out a lot of different matches because there's a lot of good wrestling in 2023. But let's begin with storyline of the year. What was the best story told in professional wrestling in 2023?
It is a close one, but I think Bloodline Against the World is number one. But I'll give MJF and Adam Cole a lot of credit for being able to have their storyline, guys. I mean, from the Bloodline standpoint, we know it starts with Roman Reigns because he's the tip of the spear. And as Paul Heyman told us at some point in 2023, we're just getting to the bottom of the third. Really? Just the bottom of the third. So this is going to last for another 20 years as Bloodline? Like, Roman's going to be old and gray and, like, you know, he's going to even take him longer to get down to the ring. No, I just think that has captured the imagination because in a time in which everyone wants it now, I need my storyline now. What's happening now? Who's going to win the championship now? You could see that the WWE has turned the clock all the way back to the way it was in the 80s and 90s and are telling you methodically a story, and it's going to get to a crescendo. So that's number one. But again, a close second for me, MJF and what is going on with him and Adam Cole. Yes, it's been cut short because of injury to Adam Cole, but that wasn't supposed to work. The odd bedfellows thing doesn't usually give you a payoff. I just thought that this worked for the time that they were together.
Yeah, I mean, on that felt like a comedic storyline to start. Like, you got the skits and things like that, and somehow it just kept taking off. I think injuries, no pun intended, sort of cut the legs out from it. Hey. I do think it's the no pun intended. That makes it okay. Like,
no offense.
With all due respect.
Right.
Right.
Now you can say whatever you want.
I think it is Bloodline, even though now, like, it feels like it's run its course. Yeah. But, like, looking back on the year as a whole, we still got Elimination Chamber. We still got those Mania main events. And that stuff was so strong. Yes, at this point, I'm done with it. I'm over it. I think they missed their opportunity not putting it on Sammy. I think they missed their opportunity not putting it on Cody. But they keep going through it. They're doing other things. And honestly, the Bloodline is the reason we have Seth Rollins as the world champion right now, because that was their solution of, no, take it off him. So new champion. But overall, I do think it is the top of the list.
I am shocked, Jay Hood. I mean, for the guy who has to ask the question every week, has the Bloodline story run its course? Like, we had how many different iterations of that question throughout the course of the year? And yet here he is. Here he is joining you and me and saying this is the storyline of the year in professional wrestling for the second consecutive year.
I really thought he was going to go with Drew McIntyre's obsession. I thought he was going to go there.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's good, but it's also, a shorter lifespan.
Yeah. He still hasn't saved. Look at that. At the bottom of the screen is the Bloodline story boring. He somehow has these in the back pocket at all times, ready to throw it out. As far as the Brochacho storyline goes, I think, yes, it would have, to me, had a better chance had Adam Cole not had the injury. When he floated in around Full Gear, like that was really good stuff when he was able to kind of float in and be there, but he just can't be there week in and week out. And the Bloodline story has really kind of stalled out ever since Roman kind of disappeared when they, broke off Jimmy and Jay, and then Jimmy had nothing to do, so he just kind of went back to the Bloodline. It's been stalled out. But leading up into that point, like it was still the dominant storyline in professional wrestling. You guys brought it up. You brought up, in Montreal in the Elimination Chamber and the moment that Sami just got. It was the Bloodline was in the main event of both nights of WrestleMania. You had the Bloodline Civil War storyline. You had Solo and Roman taking on Sami and KO at a pay-per-view. Like for the first
Solo going over Cena.
Yeah.
We had that this year.
Yeah, yes, exactly. So the Bloodline still ends up being the dominant thing. It's the through line. I think you could have, in WWE, I think maybe not Bloodline necessarily, but I think you just pointed towards Judgment Day and how involved they've been in Monday Night Raw, and really Bloodline Judgment Day versus the World on Monday Night Raw. I think that could have been in consideration as well, but it's still because they've been there every single week. But the Bloodline and Roman Reigns is still one of the best storylines going on, and the best to me in 2023.
Yeah, it's the best it's one of the best of my lifetime. Think about how much wrestling that I've seen, right? And you've seen, I've come from an era in which you took time to be able to tell a story. For them to be able to tell this story with all these different tentacles, and I still believe in 2024 there's going to be another Samoan that pops out of this thing. Whether that's somebody, I don't know. There's going to be somebody from MLW. There's going to be somebody from the Indies. Something is going to be able to occur where it's going to add another layer to the story. But just once again, Paul Heyman. Here's a guy here that was in the forefront, and those Brock Lesnar, or the time of Brock Lesnar. He is like Seinfeld. He's like the least interesting person in the storyline because he doesn't talk a lot, right? He says every now and then, but he used to be in the front. Now he's in the back as a support group, holding up the belts or holding up championships, falling down because they're so heavy, the championships on his shoulders. But guys, it's fascinating. Besides Roman win the championships, what happens to the Uso brothers? Like, will they ever come back? Will they take on one another? That's why the story is interesting.
I will say from a WWE standpoint, though, I don't put anything even close to it. Like, yes, Judgment Day's there because of the belt and things like that, but like after the Edge turn, like what are we really like waiting for storyline-wise? Like they teased the breakup a little bit, but they almost seem to be going comedy now with some of the R-Truth stuff the last few weeks.
R-Truth was fantastic on Monday night.
Yes, he is very good.
So good. So good.
Yeah, when you're cracking up people, when Damian Priest has to walk away, like, okay, there we go.
Well, that's what Sami did with the Bloodline.
Right,
like he could be steroids for Judgment Day, the way that Sami was steroids for the Bloodline in 2022. Like just kind of boost that up, and you've got somebody out there trying to break everybody and being fantastic, and then still looking good in the ring despite being 51 years old.
Yeah, no one would even know that, right? If they don't
know,
they just think he's ageless. He's not Tony Storm, but he's ageless for sure. There's no question about that.
Does Tony get any credit? Like the number 2 AEW, you put Tony Storm up there?
On her story?
Yeah.
For her to be able to look at and say, they got nothing for me. I'm just going to just act crazy. I'm just going to pretend like I'm a starlet from the 1930s, and it gets over. I mean, this is the kind of character development we've been waiting for AEW for a while. This is so far outside the box, right? Bruce Pritchard someplace is jealous. He's got to be like, damn, that's the kind of thing that I would have put together, right? It is Pritchard-esque the way they put it together, but every time you see her, Gabe, you want to see her out there, not only wrestle, but also have a promo. Tits up and watch for the shoe.
I mean, so with her, it's still so relatively fresh and new.
Sure.
So it's, I mean, if you think about it, like CM Punk's been fired, and she started that after CM Punk got fired, right? Like, so it's still so new because when we were at All In, she had a completely different character, completely different persona. Like, so there were so many other things going on that it's still so relatively new. I don't think I could have said storyline of the year, despite it being something that I enjoy immensely. And again, the production value that AEW's put in. So like she's doing commentary on a match. The match is in color. They cut a camera to her. It's in black and white. She's doing these facial expressions. It's fantastic. And I hope it keeps going. And I think it's going to be in the running for storyline of the year of 2024.
Well, if there's a number 2 for AEW, do you put your guy Orange up there? Like the tired story and all that?
I mean, I don't know if there's a story. I mean, so our next one is Male Wrestler of the Year, and I considered Orange for Male Wrestler of the Year just because of him carrying. I don't know if there's been necessarily a storyline. I mean, I guess that what he did going in against Mox and the little bit that they had there with the history of them previously and then going into All Out and main eventing All Out in Chicago, like it was a very brief, like, quick hit storyline because it had to be with All In and everything that went into that. But the brief storyline of how much it meant and Orange needed to go over, and then he does go over. Like I thought that was pretty good for especially for AEW.
Well, guys, it's cold now because we haven't seen it on TV for a while. But I think Don Callis versus Kenny Omega and that whole story that made sense. And Jericho. So it's just kind of like it's a vortex, right? It's just Don Callis going mega heel with really like nuclear heat. Him doing that to Jericho, and then of course with the Kenny Omega thing. I think that was a huge story for 2023 and AEW.
Yeah. But I feel like they missed the boat on that one. Like think of Takeshita, that first promo he cut in Japanese that he was getting, but now it feels like it's all about Don Callis and like everyone else is just sort of there. Like I feel like it's a waste of Kyle Fletcher. Like I don't know.
It is the Don Callis family, so.
Yeah, but where's he been? That's the whole thing, right? You had something going there. Yes, it's still a Don Callis family. I saw Fletcher just win the ROH TV championship in a really impressive match, but where's Callis? Like there's a guy there that was getting you heat, like not almost Dom heat, almost Dominic Mysterio heat. And so where's he been?
And plus that dude took probably the gnarliest bump of the year.
Yeah. On accident.
Yeah. Not great. So let's go ahead and dive into Male Wrestler of the Year. I think the list is long here. Again, I would nominate, in terms of the list of nominees that I kind of sifted through, I had Orange, Seth, Cody, Roman, Mox, MJF. Like I think there's a lot that you can sift through here in terms of Male Wrestler of the Year.
Those are the names. There's some New Japan in there that you could throw in there as well, some Impact Wrestling. I just think that Seth Rollins, though, I tried to make it as simple as possible after going through a dozen names and crossing them off. I went to Seth Rollins because when, with Roman Reigns being out, guys, Seth Rollins has carried the company. I mean, he's the guy that's doing the house shows. He's the guy that's on television. He's the guy that had, I thought, terrific matches against Shinsuke Nakamura and others in 2023. And maybe that reign's coming to an end by the time we get to WrestleMania. But for a guy here that's not 100% and who is in wrestling, that guy has carried the mail for the WWE. The Bloodline is the great storyline, yes, but who's been doing the wrestling? We give Gunther all this credit for being like this workhorse Intercontinental Champion. That's true. But Seth Rollins, though, is making the towns and doing all the TV and doing everything else as one of the faces. So I put Male Wrestler of the Year, Seth Rollins, for me.
So for me, I had like two separate sides. Like we're talking about strictly in the ring wrestling, doing their thing. Like it was Bryan Danielson for me. Yes, there was some time off, but every week, like you don't know who he's going to face, but he's going to go out there. And he's going to give you 5-6 stars. That's what he does. And now taking over a more leadership role also. The other side is maybe it's the media side of like, hey, who are we talking about week in and week out? It's Punk. Mm-hmm. Like there was no bigger story in 2023 than CM Punk. The exit, the entrance, the suspension, the will he, the won't he, like he's that guy that we're talking about. He's the LeBron, he's the Rodgers. That's CM Punk.
Yeah, Punk's a great choice, and I didn't even think about it. But I mean, Punk's one of the biggest draws still in professional wrestling today. Yeah. Like Collision didn't start strictly because of him, but some of the thought process is, oh, he's a big enough draw that even during college football season, like, he's going to be able to pull a decent enough number in terms of the ratings. And, well, we never got to see that because he got fired before college football season really kicked off for Collision. But, yeah, I mean, Punk has dominated the headlines, whether he's been in AEW, and was clearly going to be a big part of their storylines going forward as their real world's champion. and he was going to have the X on the AEW belt and doing that whole thing. And the way he's shown up in WWE, it's the only thing everybody's talking about. But I lean in the same direction as Jay Hood. Like, as much as I wanted to give it to Orange Cassidy, because the dude shows up week in, week out. He's got the KT tape on. It just felt like for 2-3 months straight, he was defending that international championship on Dynamite, and he would start, we'd hear Jefferson Starship starting off Dynamite. Like, it's just the way it did. You would have Excalibur, hey, it's Wednesday. You know what that means. And then do. All right, here we go. Orange Cassidy is going to put on a banger. And, we have a conversation coming up with Matt Menard as he's trying to figure out kind of the next step for him. Whereas Orange Cassidy, for him to go from this comedic sideshow to legitimate professional wrestler who's helping carry a company, like, that's just, man, I may be talking myself into changing and going with Orange Cassidy, because who would have thought it was possible that this guy who is too cool for school and can't even raise his full thumb up to give a thumbs up is one of the biggest wrestling stars in one of the biggest companies in the world. It's his transformation.
He main evented a pay-per-view in Chicago.
Yeah.
Like, if you would have told people when you saw him that first time, which was a lot of people's first introduction to him, he'd be main eventing a Chicago pay-per-view, that speaks a lot to what he did this year.
Like, and as good as Mox has been in terms of carrying company, as good as Danielson has been, like, he's been the consistent week in, week out for AEW. As good as MJF has been, who we haven't talked about, who had a tremendous year, being the world champion all of 2023 for AEW. Like, with all those things going on, the consistent performer who was there for Rampage, for Dynamite, for Collision was Orange Cassidy for AEW. And maybe he's not the male wrestler of the year. Maybe he's just the MVP of the year, which would be a different award.
Man, Cody Rhodes has to be in consideration as well, because yes, he's trying to finish the story, guys. But I think you talk about banger of matches that Cody's had. I think that he should be considered as well. I think that he's been tremendous. It's really a photo finish to try to determine who gets more cheers, Seth Rollins or Cody Rhodes. But I mean, those two definitely gets the acclaim.
And you know who else deserves a lot? And I know, Brian, I'm surprised you didn't go this route. Sami Zayn, man. You want to talk about another workhorse who helped carry? I mean, you think about what he did earlier in the year. Carrying, he ends up main eventing, and he's been able to carry that storyline. He's been doing a lot of heavy lifting before they wrote him off for injury, but he was doing a lot of heavy lifting, featured in a lot of segments of Monday Night Raw. Like, he probably doesn't raise up, and it's probably not him, but he definitely deserves a shout out for the 2023 that he has had.
Yeah, I just feel like it was such a high point early in the year, like we talked about Elimination Chamber, that the rest sort of felt like a step down. Like, when him and KO were the tag champs, they were just holding titles. Like, there wasn't like a storyline there. So that, to me, is why I didn't really think of him. The other one, in terms of credit, Dom deserves credit. Like, in 2023, heels do not get heat the way Dom does. Like, we don't see people booed like that anymore. And I think he deserves credit for that. Yeah,
let's give him credit, because, 14, 15 months ago, we looked at him as like, what is this?
Yeah.
Right? Because he looked green. And in my mind's eye, when I think back, I wonder, the WWE, did they put that together? It's like, hey, we know you can go, but you got to wrestle like you're a green character. You have to wrestle, because that's a thing in wrestling, Gabe, in which you may look good in the indies, or you may look good in training or practice, but sometimes a wrestling company will tell you, you need to wrestle like a green wrestler. And so the metamorphosis of Dominic Mysterio, we watched him, and we're just like, whoa, where does this come from? Every match he gets better. It's one thing on the mic that he gets booed, but his in-ring work, it's not soft. It actually is pretty good. It's not where it needs to be as far as the apex yet. But the point is, though, is that from where he started to where he is now, he's becoming the complete package in WWE.
But he's still, like you said, he's growing. He's still so incredibly young.
Yeah.
Like, he still has so much room to grow, which is the exciting part about him. And I wonder, my guess is, if I had to guess, is that he was green, because he was, when he came into WWE, he was so young. But the confidence that he got playing the character that he is and having that group of people around him, I think that just really helped his growth, his development in terms of where he's gotten to now.
Yeah. And he's got his mom's height.
That helps. Certainly helps.
I mean, I'm just telling you that I would imagine coming out of the womb, Dominic Mysterio was wrestling as a little child.
Right.
And so that means that he was face to face with Ray. And so as a little kid, he was wrestling, and then all of a sudden, look what he is right now. I mean, give Rhea Ripley and the rest of the Judgment Day credit for kind of elevating his character while he develops. But yeah, a couple of NXT championships along the way. 2020,
Yeah.
you'd expect, like, what is this now? So him and Mommy are a thing where the people online thinks that there's really a relationship going on there, which is really interesting. So I just think the personality in the in-ring is grown up before our very eyes.
Speaking of heels who get heat, any love for Christian Cage?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I didn't think about him, but that's a good one.
I mean,
Yeah.
the man says the word father, and everybody starts grasping for pearls. Like, everyone's like, where's he going with this? Like, he's doing some of, I mean, this is somebody that was introduced to AEW as a Hall of Famer, even though he's not, right? Like, but he was. I mean, he had a Hall of Fame career with the WWE.
Wow.
He's doing the best work of his career, I think, as the father figure to all these other people. Like, and again, I just go back to the promo he cut with Adam Copeland, talking about, and Adam, I know you grew up without a father, and the way everyone's like it was, it's just so good, the way he's been able to manipulate crowds.
So, so Christian pretty much are doing yo daddy jokes. That's what he's doing.
No, he's not doing your daddy jokes. He's doing your dead daddy jokes.
I mean,
right,
which is like the ultimate, right? It's more.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what's happening. But it just see, bro. I think all three of us know this. So this is the best that Christian has been. And again, terrific in WWE. He had a solid TNA run. As a matter of fact, in the TNA run, there was Dixie Carter in the middle of the ring. I've got a big surprise for everyone. We've got a big free agent here. Ladies and gentlemen, Christian Cage. What? That's your big surprise, Christian Cage? When Ric Flair had to go to the Hall of Fame in WWE, Dixie's like, okay, we'll do a trade. And the WWE said, take whoever you like, pal, except The Undertaker. Take anything you like. Christian Cage. The whole roster. You could have The Rock. You took Christian Cage. So, but this right now is the grace that he's done, because just a little tweak, right? It's still Christian, but Christian is an a-hole, and Christian wrestles with this what is that turtleneck?
A turtleneck.
Yeah. Oh God, the turtleneck is just
in the summer. So he's wrestling with that, right? In the summer when it's hot, and just for him to have that face of a heel. It's the best run he's had. I don't think he could do this in WWE. I don't know if they'd allow him to do it like this. But he seems like he has autonomy of his own character. He has his own little stable now. So I just think that definitely he deserves consideration, because no one gets heat like that in those ways. Talk about someone's right. Father.
And I think, like your point about with Judgment Day, like the fact that so many others are getting over. Like, I think this is great for Nick Wayne. I think Luchasaurus, who, was more of a child-friendly, cartoonish character. Like, I think him having this edge is good. Edge, Adam Copeland being a part of it. Like, there's so many people in here that are being elevated, and that does speak to Christian.
So, are you guys sticking with the original ones in terms of male wrestler of the year?
Yeah, I wrote it down in pen, so I can't erase it.
Okay, you can't change it. I will, too, go with Seth Rollins for a lot of those same reasons, because of the way he's been carrying. But I think there were a lot of good options. Whereas when we go to female wrestler of the year, I've got one answer, and I've got one answer only. And not to say that there weren't a lot of females that had great years, because there were. But to me, there's one that rose above the rest. Because there was one that carried Monday Night Raw, was featured on Monday Night Raw, was the biggest superstar in WWE for a stretch, and that's Rhea Ripley. Like, Rhea is my female wrestler of the year, because, she is the leader of the Judgment. Oh, we don't have leaders. Rhea is the leader of the Judgment Day. We all know it. Priest knows it. Balor knows it. Clearly, Dirty Dom knows it. I don't know if R-Truth knows it yet, but he will. She has just had a tremendous year. The match she had at WrestleMania with Charlotte Flair, just kind of really cementing her run that she's on right now with the Judgment Day. Like, this is this is the potential that I think everybody saw in her a couple of years ago during the pandemic when she wrestled Charlotte Flair originally. It took her a while on the main roster to kind of find that footing. And now that she's found it, man, she has taken off and is undoubtedly one of the biggest stars in WWE.
I want you to think about the amount of women, broets, that are out there that are doing great things. So Rhea Ripley would be number one, but Athena is right there at number two because she's doing the best work of her career right now. And unfortunately, it's behind a pay window. WatchRH.com, but I wish people could see what she's doing because she had a banger and a main event for Final Resolution, their pay-per-view. It was an amazing match, almost 30 minutes that she had in that main event in Dallas. But this is the same 2023 that gave us Bianca Belair and Jamie Hayter and gave us, Willow Nightingale and Jordan Grace. There's plenty and great women's wrestling. But Rhea Ripley, the way she was utilized, the way she's in that Judgment Day, and then she gives you what you want in the ring. She doesn't have a bad match. That's the other thing, too. And they keep her special, too, by the way. It's not like they're dragging her out every week and she's wrestling. You want to see her persona, but when you see her wrestle, you're like leaning in a little bit more because you want to see how good she is. She is that good.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think that's why with this category, like, she is so far and above so many other people. Like you mentioned some of those names. You didn't even mention a Becky Lynch. Yeah. Tiffany Stratton had a big year. You had Trish Stratus going a good run this year. But Rhea is so far away from everyone else. Hell, even a Toni Storm that we talked about. Like, she is doing stuff that we really haven't seen a female wrestler do, especially in the WWE. Like, when we saw it with Bayley, when we saw it with Sasha, it was in NXT. Those two never got this type of moment to shine and be such a main event player on the main roster like Rhea is right now.
Yeah, because typically when it's been when any one of those, like if you name any one of the four horsewomen, like it's typically like they did a little thing with Becky and Seth before they even got married, like, oh, this couples thing, but it was really confined just to the women's division. Like any one of that, it was just confined to the women's division. Where Rhea Ripley has broken out and like she's involved in how many storylines to the point where, she's the one that, as they're doing an interview, oh, is that Rhea talking to Drew McIntyre back there? Is that what's going on? Like she crosses through. How many storylines does she touch right now on Monday Night Raw? Like she is just everywhere. So that's why, again, she's like the breakout star. And to me, the biggest female wrestler of the year.
And I think the biggest almost success story of the Triple H era, because I don't see this happening under Vince. Like you could do Judgment Day under Vince, but there's a leader and it's Finn and it's Damian Priest. Like, I don't know if we would have seen this exact way played out if it's Vince running things.
Yeah, I think that's true. And just the amount of women that have been able to get the job done in 2023 and that's entertained us. Listen, I know that there's just one feed on X, on Twitter, where they count how many minutes women have actually been in the ring. And, more times than not, it's either AEW or WWE. But we got to give some of the women in AEW a lot of credit. Like, Ring of Honor aside with Athena, I was a big fan of what Willow Nightingale did, not only in AEW, but also in New Japan, because she won the championship, even though don't think that was the finish against Mercedes Moné in Long Beach. I don't think that was because it surprised the shit out of Willow. She's just like, she can't go. I'm going to win this thing. It's going to piss people off. Oh, no. So just that. And Julia Hart
yes. 100%.
Not even 25 yet, and she's doing some great work. And one of our guests,
Sky Blue,
one of the guests that we had, Sky Blue, has done some great work. So women's wrestling is in a great spot, but Rhea Ripley is what you got to reach. That's what you want to reach. Like, you may not reach the size, but you can reach at least the personality and the appeal, if nothing else.
Julia Hart has so much potential, and I loved her portion of the press conference after Full Gear, after she won the TBS championship, where she was just like so honest, like she wasn't doing that in character, where she was talking about the cheerleader gimmick, and she was like, man, Yeah, I mean, I was doing it, but I wasn't confident doing it. I had no idea. And then, this thing comes along and, she would get back to the curtain and like everybody would have like almost pity on her. Like, oh, it's okay. You're going to figure it out. And now she's gotten to a point where she has that confidence and everybody's telling her what a good job she's done. So for her to have that mid-card title, like it just gives you that peek into the window of the future that she still has being so young. I am really excited about her future in AEW.
Well, yeah, it's cool to see that transformation, especially like when we're talking about Rhea. They always show that picture of her in the Mae Young Classic, where it's like, how is this the same person? Like blonde hair Rhea, like smiley. It's like, I don't understand here. So like Julia Hart, you put the cheerleader next to where she is now. It's like, oh, okay.
But that's the thing. Like she's still smiling but it's like a vicious smile. It's like a mischievous smile. Like it's if you're on the other end, you're like, I don't want you smiling at me right now because something bad's about to happen to me. Smile that Rhea Ripley does.
They were calling Rhea Ripley Little Charlotte because they thought this is the replica of Charlotte Flair when she first came out. I told you guys the story over and over again. I saw her on NXT UK, and I'm like, who is this? Like the size, the way she went around the ring. I'm like, I know they're keeping her quiet. She's in NXT UK. No one knows. I'm watching it. No one knows how good she can be. And then look at her now. She's the #1 women's wrestler in the world. Okay, by the way, for those of you going to troll us on social media, Julia in Stardom and also Tam Nakano from Stardom, they're very good too, okay?
Yeah.
All right. So before that tweet comes, you didn't say anything about Julia. Well, let her come to America. How about that?
Yeah. I think, again, if women get time in AEW, I think they've got a deep enough roster. And I think that's something I'm hoping I see more of in 2024. Is them getting more of a chance. You've got 5 hours of television every week. I think there's an opportunity to showcase a lot of them. Again, the fact that Britt Baker is nowhere near this conversation this year has got to be a little bit disappointing because I think she's one of the more entertaining people anytime that I see her on television. So I think that's a disappointing thing, despite all these good things that are happening in terms of Toni Storm and the kind of the stuff that Saraya has been able to do this year. And it's leaving me wanting a little bit more on AEW.
Just shout out to Trinity because for her to have for her not to be in the WWE and then her to take first time away from WWE, that's kind of a culture shock, right? You go to WWE, 20,000 people to 500 to 1,000 people in an Impact Wrestling arena. It's kind of like, okay, I got to adjust. Now it's really about me more so than the crowd supporting me. I got to make sure I get over with this audience. She's had a tremendous run too, by the way, Trinity and Impact. I mentioned Jordan Grace as well, but that was pretty strong. So just shout out to her because her 2024 is pretty special as well now that she's part of Endeavor.
Endeavor Streaming.
Yeah, well, I'm saying it's a branch of the company, right? It's down the hall from WWE. Interesting times, isn't it? This is why
still connected.
Guys, 2024, you think that we had a great 2023 as a show. 2024 is going to be amazing. We're going to be breaking in from our cars with breaking news left and right in 2024, especially the wrestling news. We had some news this year, but next year, man, 2024 is going to be a really special year in wrestling.
This is the hardest category. Last year, it was cool because we all ended up taking a different match of the trilogy that we saw between FTR and Dem Boys.
Yep.
And I think it's a little more wide open this year. It is all over the place. I have so many I have written down here. I don't even know where to start in terms of narrowing it down to one. Like we've tried to do this. Like it started this year. When we started the show, we wanted to do a match of the week. All right, pick your... Yeah. And that kind of evolved into everybody picking 3 throughout the course of this year. So it's going to be really hard to narrow that many throughout the course of 2023 down to just one. So if you got a couple honorable mentions, go ahead and feel free to throw those out there as well. Because I've got like 6 or 7 written down here. And I know I've forgotten something.
Okay, how much time do you have? Because
as much as you got, man.
Okay, brother, we're going to be here for a while because I do have one written down, but I have so many OLIs outside looking.
Yeah.
I mean, so, okay. I mean, it starts with the top of the year, bro. So Omega and Ospreay, New Japan, Wrestle Kingdom 17, arguably the best match of the year.
Yeah. I think the issue is that like most people aren't figuring out how to subscribe. You can find ways to watch it, and it was so early in the year. It is my top. I have 7 written down. That one's my top one because I feel like it's forgotten. Yeah, it's my number one. Like that match was so damn good that it was worth, figuring out how to learn Japanese and going through Duolingo and doing all that stuff to get subscribed to New Japan World. And we're doing that again in a few weeks, the Wrestle Kingdom coming up. But that match and what those two did, it was just top of the line for me.
Okay, so I mean, Ospreay, Kenny Omega, Forbidden Door. Do you guys remember that? I mean, sorry, AEW and everything's a 5-star match, but I mean that was a fine match too. Forbidden Door.
I for whatever reason I thought the first one was better. I don't know if it was just the dynamic, but it was so hard hitting. Like those guys are good. Like Will Ospreay knows how to wrestle.
Yeah, I had Kenny Ospreay from Wrestle Kingdom written down over the one from again. Choosing your favorite flavor of ice cream right now. That's basically what we're doing. It's all going to be pretty good, but
it's from the same store. That's a problem. I mean, it's different flavors, but it's the same store. There's other ice cream shops. That's the problem. Like, we keep going to the same place for the same ice cream. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's fair. One of my outside looking in that it wasn't a technical masterpiece, but it's the match that made me feel the most. And that was Roman versus Sammy. Like if the job of professional wrestling is to get me to feel something like that, again, it's not a technical masterpiece and you get the schmozzy finish because it's a bloodline and you have to have all those things happen to Sammy in order for Roman to go over. But like the feeling, I never want to forget that feeling of watching Sammy come out, even bringing it back the night before, the first time he comes out and Worlds Apart hits and everybody in Montreal is going absolutely crazy. He's got the honorary Hab shirts. Like just the what you felt just watching on your television that night on SmackDown, the very next night at Elimination Chamber. Like that's the reason that we're professional wrestling fans. And that's like you connect to the product. So again, it's outside looking in. It's not a technical masterpiece. It's not 5 stars according to Meltzer, but it made you feel something. And I felt like it at least needed to be mentioned here today on the matches of the year.
What else do you have on your list, Roy?
So I wrote Orange Verse.
That doesn't work. You gotta Orange.
You gotta pick one.
Orange Mox.
Yeah, Orange Mox. Orange Mox at All Out. Yeah.
The others that you could throw in there, and this was me just going through like matches of the week throughout the year, Buddy and Swerve.
Yeah.
Like your point about it being Dynamite and just a throwaway Wednesday, you're like, all right, like I don't remember details of it, but like I remember Orange just being Orange things. I feel like that's why he deserves some credit in this category, but you just got to figure out the who on the other side.
I mean, okay, so on Collision, one of the best tag team matches I saw was FTR.
Yes. Yep.
Jay White and Juice Robinson, 2 out of 3 Collision. Like, I mean, it came out of nowhere. We didn't know it was going to be that good. You see 4 guys, all right, what are you going to do? 2 out of 3 falls. It was classic. It's like 40 minutes, wasn't it? How long?
Yes.
40 minutes?
Yeah, it was
up there.
You could have told me it was the second hour of Collision. I think I'd believe you right now.
Right.
I think that's true, actually. I think
it is. I think it was because it's 2 out of 3 falls, man. They may have taken the full hour. I'm not sure.
I think it was. Like, that was a hell of a match.
Yeah.
Gunther and Drew against Sheamus.
Yeah, WrestleMania night 2.
Yeah, Mania.
That was probably one of the better matches there. I put Lynch versus Stratus cage match from Payback.
Yeah.
And what I remember sticking out about that match was when Trish first showed up and they were doing trios matches with her and Becky and Lita. Like, I just remember kind of, ooh, man, Lita and Trish don't move like they used to. But she was able to figure it out over the course of the next 4 months or however long it was between that and then them having this cage match. And Trish that was her dream match. She wanted to have the cage match. And so often I feel like you build up a match in your mind, right? And sometimes it doesn't live up to this thing lived up to it, man. Like this was her dream match and she nailed it. Absolutely nailed it.
Yeah, I mean, that one definitely deserves it. The other one we haven't mentioned yet, just from it feels like yesterday, Swerve and Hangman.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's in my top 3. Swerve Hangman death match is in my top 3.
That's for sure. There's some Gunther matches that I thought were okay, but not great. Like I'll give you an example. Like the build up to Minnesota, his matchup against Chad Gable. So
Yeah.
I mean, good match. I mean, very good match. It's just kind of like, all right, the finish was what it was. It was just, the family. I know that was controversial, that the daughter was crying. People didn't like that. And they're crying. But I like the build for it and the match.
Yes.
Paid off. But again, here we go, 2024. Gable's got to be able to get over. You don't expand nonsense group that he's in. He's got to spin out of that and be Kurt Angle or something close to it. You mean to tell me that this guy that can suplex the world, this guy that has core strength, you mean to tell me that he's just going to be stuck with the Creed brothers? Come on, man. Like
that it feels like
a serious singles contender for some championship.
I want him. I don't know how they're going to end Gunther's run. I want him to be the next IC champion because I think when we start talking about it's a different type of workhorse, obviously, than what Gunther is. But when Gunther's brought that old school mentality back to the IC championship, right? Like it's the workhorse championship. And I think that just fits Gable perfectly.
Yep. The other one to throw in there, talking about workers, MJF, Bryan, Iron Man.
Yeah, well,
that was fantastic.
That's my number one.
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Okay. So Kenny Ospreay Wrestle Kingdom was my number one. The other one we haven't brought up, and this was the one again because you did Orange versus. This could have been Danielson versus, right? Like
sure, yeah.
A lot of dream matches that he had throughout the course of the year. And I did Sabre versus Danielson at Wrestle Dream.
Okay.
That was my number 2.
Oh, that's right. Wrestle Dream.
Yeah, that happened.
A lot of good wrestling. It's easy to forget about a lot of it.
Rhea versus Charlotte, WrestleMania.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That was fantastic.
I know it was a while ago. I think we need to go back and watch it, and because I don't think it gets its due. It's funny because people on our chat was like, "We already saw that match." That's fine. I want to see it again. Like I want to see it again. When Charlotte's healthy and ready to go, and God bless her, she's out for 9 months plus. So that'll be in time for what, like SummerSlam?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe SummerSlam.
Yeah. I mean,
there's a lot of injuries there.
I mean, it's not just it's from what I saw, it's basically the entire knee.
Yeah.
So Survivor Series.
Yeah.
That'll be the Triple H. The slow burn. He just rolls guys out in the fall and winter. Hey, here's Randy Orton. Here's CM Punk. And so we'll forget about Charlotte. All of a sudden, there she is for Survivor Series. And there she is, Charlotte. So maybe like a year away.
Yeah.
The
other one, I'm shocked, not on Gabe's list. Bad Bunny in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, Bad Bunny in Puerto Rico. You want to talk about feeling things? That'll make you feel alive. That reception, I thought about putting Bad Bunny in there as like male wrestler of the year, even though he only had one match. I thought about trying to sneak it in there, see if you guys would notice. Again, like when somebody like that comes in to wrestling and loves it as much as he does, like that's only good for professional wrestling. To like this guy is the most popular artist, one of the most popular artists in the world, most streamed artist on the planet. And here he is putting his body on the line in a street fight because he loves pro wrestling. Like it just kind of shows like how cool professional wrestling can be. And again, having an entire island behind you as you're making your entrance, like it's that whole match was, that was the street match of the year, the street fight of the year, without a doubt.
I think about that entrance once a week.
Oh yeah.
I just I forgot that there was a match because
the drone like going around the stadium, like, and everybody losing their minds. Oh,
I lost my mind watching that. It's like, and I'm saying to myself, Hood, why can't you contain yourself? Because everyone can come down, everyone comes down the ramp. Everyone comes down to ringside, but just the emotion, the people just popped. This guy comes down with a shopping cart like a homeless person. He's down there and like he just does everything flawless, which is again says a lot about the era. Logan Paul and Bad Bunny should wrestle at WrestleMania because you would think, there might be some mistakes. No, that'll be a flawless match. No, they'll be fine. It'll be just like anybody else wrestling in there, except the star power of those two in the ring. I think that's the match I want to see for the U.S. title.
Yeah, sign me up right now. I'm holding out hope that we get Bad Bunny at the Royal Rumble.
I just want Puerto Rico so bad. Just do it again. I mean, because what we laughed about this year was in Puerto Rico, yes, and they've been starved for good wrestling, like major wrestling for a long time. And I saw the fans, WCW, where the big boys played. That's the last 91. I'm like, look, that's a WCW shirt. You always see the NWO shirts because they always
those are
like a purple and gold WCW shirt. I'm like, boy, this island's been starved for good wrestling for a long time. Jeez. I mean, but and one last one, like ROH's best match, Claudio against Kingston, only because when Claudio lost the ROH championship to Kingston, the reason why that resonates with me is because you still don't know whether or not they have heat. I don't know the answer to that.
That's great. Yeah. That's great. I'm glad you don't know. I'm glad we don't know.
I think they hate each other still, but with Kingston, because of those promos, you just never know. I just saw the latest promo from Kingston. I'm injured. I'm hurt. Listen, just hurry this up. Someone help me up out of this chair. Someone help me out of this chair. Like the guy doesn't want to be on camera. Get up. Help me. My hip. I got to get the cuffs for the back and everything else. Like he's like an old man, like your uncle, complaining all the time. Like, so I just think that Kingston, we didn't put him in male wrestler of the year, but for a guy that has been the bumps and bruises, he deserves his flowers. He doesn't want to hear it, but he deserves his flowers because he has been fantastic. He's had a nice run this year.
Yeah, I mean, a world title win in New York, like awesome year for him.
Well, again, 100th episode, so we're going to overstuff it a little bit. We've got some great interviews we want to play. We begin with one of our favorite guests. We wanted to celebrate with the one guy who once on this show wondered out loud, when Hulk Hogan was talking about vitamins, was he talking about steroids? Of course, I'm talking about the one, the only Daddy Magic, Matt Menard.
What about Ricochet? This is our 100th episode of Good Karma Wrestling. We are so glad that you're with us here. 100 episodes. Let me tell you something, Brian Rowitz. We've had some tremendous guests, but there's one that stands above everybody else that we've had on the show for 100 episodes.
That's right. There only one stands above it all.
It's Daddy Magic. It's Matt Menard. He's with us right here on Good Karma Wrestling. Daddy Magic, thanks so much for joining us.
What's going on, boys? And congratulations, 100 episodes, and nothing to sneeze at.
It's no question about it. We just want to get your thoughts, first of all, about the big pay-per-view taking place on December 30th on Long Island, but on just how you celebrate. We have 100 episodes, 100 of anything. How should we celebrate this?
Well, that's a great question. How do you celebrate it? I don't know. How do you celebrate 100 episodes of a is this radio, podcast? What are we doing here, boys?
Yes.
We're all platforms, yes.
all platforms around the world. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think you celebrate by getting tickets to the big pay-per-view on Long Island.
Oh, that's right. That's a good way to start. How about that, Gabe? If we're going to celebrate 100 episodes, we should be at the big pay-per-view on December 30th for AEW.
Yeah, absolutely. World's End. Sign me up, man. Does Daddy Magic have a hookup for us? Do we got,
Yeah, it's called the box office.
Wait a minute. We're all friends here. Some kind of inside. I mean, you're Daddy Magic. You can make things happen.
I don't know what to tell you, boys. It's a capitalistic society.
Matt, for you, when you look back on 2023, what's been the highlight for you personally in the wrestling ring?
Yeah, well, I mean, wow, that's tough. That's tough to answer, honestly. It wasn't the year that I was necessarily expecting. I didn't see the end of the Jericho Appreciation Society coming. Maybe. See, I don't know how you feel watching the product, but it felt to me like when the year started, I'll say this. When the year started, I didn't think it would be over already. So I didn't see that happening. But I would say the last couple months have been pretty awesome, though. the tournament with Garcia, everything that we've been doing, getting back together with Hager, and it's been an absolute blast.
Well, with that, dive into the emotions and feelings you had by being able to go out and get the reception you did in your home country of Canada just a couple days ago.
Oh, you know what? When you asked me that question, that didn't even cross my mind. That would have to be a highlight, of course.
Good work, Gabe.
No, honestly, thank you for reminding me. Things just move so fast. I'm just thinking about what I'm going to be doing on Saturday at Collision. It's Danny's last match in the tournament. Like, that's where my mind was. Yeah, of course. Having my friends and family and my son at the arena that I grew up going to. I watched Survivor Series from that arena, guys. 97, right? The screw job. So to be there performing and get that type of reception on television is unbelievable. Like, you can't even put it into words, you know? And it almost felt like a career achievement award, if that makes any sense. It felt like a career achievement award, like a respect, like a level of respect from the city you grew up in.
Well, so what is it about Montreal that has that? Because I think we've seen that connection. I mean, obviously with Sami Zayn and you know, and everything that he's done. Every time he goes back there, he gets this hero's welcome. And you guys were treated, I would say, similarly. What is it about Montreal that absolutely loves one of their own like you?
It's just different in the sense that, so it's Canada, okay? But even within Canada, it's its own separate island because of the French, right? Quebec. Mm-hmm. So anytime somebody from there breaks out of that, it's even more special. And to me, that has to be the reason as to why it's so personal for everybody. It's not easy. It's not easy coming out of that, out of small time Quebec and branching out on a national scale within Canada, but then again to not only just branch out to the United States, but become successful on a national platform. It's crazy.
Daddy Magic, we want to be able to lift you. You're lifting us by being on the show of our 100th episode, but we got to lift you. Look what you've done. That hero's welcome in Canada. You've been able to do some commentary. You've been like a dad or a big brother to Daniel Garcia. That's the last time we saw you kind of talking to Daniel Garcia. You actually have had a great 2023, if you haven't noticed by now.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Also, yeah, another highlight is being able to commentate that entire episode of Rampage a couple of weeks ago. It was a great check mark for me. You know, my first nationally televised complete show. That felt good.
I mean, also, I think that the character growth, like you talk about the stuff with Danny, we said in the group chat, like, hey, it's serious Daddy Magic. How do you go from hard nipples to being serious like you have in the last few weeks?
That's great. Yeah, that's true, though. It's true. It's just the evolution of the way things go. And that's the great thing about being put in spots on television and things happen with the characters that you associate with. It brings out different emotions and you could show a different side. Because, yeah, the majority of my AEW run, I've just been this wacky, zany guy. And then things happen to that wacky, zany guy and he reacts differently. It's been great to be able to showcase that.
What is the schedule like now with the addition of Collision? I mean, does that extend the schedule, trying to figure out how that all works out? I know up in Canada, they did the Cape. That's always, you know, got to be tough when they do the taping for the Saturday show on Tuesday before the Wednesday and Friday show and all that sort of thing. But with the addition of another show, has that made the life on the road any more hectic for you?
Yeah, definitely. Typically, they like to keep people... If you're a Saturday guy, you're a Saturday guy. If you're a Wednesday guy, you're a Wednesday guy. So it doesn't mix up too much. But for me, at least the last month, I've been doing both every single week. I was just thinking about it before. Like, how much time have I actually spent at home? The last... I started with Sammy Guevara, okay? Because I was telling him I'm on the way to the airport right now. And he goes, oh, I thought you were a day of guy. Meaning you fly in the day of the show, come home the next day, right? But I'm flying in the day before because just the schedule, Oklahoma City is weird to get to. So typically, because of the two shows, I do just go the day of just to save some time and maximize the time at home, right? Because otherwise I would just have Monday as a day off and that would be it.
AEW World's End taking place on December 30th at the Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum on Long Island, 7 o'clock Eastern. It's going to be on pay-per-view. It's the last pay-per-view for AEW for 2023. Make sure that you get a chance to see what happens. There's so much going on. I want to ask you about David Garcia, though, because you were there side by side, interrupting his promo just to tell him, hey, I'm going to hold my tongue. I don't know what to say. So what happens with Daniel Garcia? He's pretty much out of the tournament, but he has one match left. So what can we expect
from that match?
From Daniel Garcia? Yeah.
I mean, I'm interested to see how he reacts, right? Like, it's an opportunity to play spoiler. It's like a team, you know, in the NFL season that's eliminated from playoff contention, and you're kind of fighting. You know, the players are still fighting for their jobs next season. You know, so that's kind of what I want to see from Daniel. What's he going to show to the matchmakers at AEW? What's he bringing to the table? You know, is he a guy who's going to quit and take a knee, so to speak, on this match because it doesn't count really for anything in this tournament? And as a man, I want to see how he handles that.
For you, we spent some time looking back on the year, some of our favorite matches. And with AEW matches, there are plenty to choose from. I feel like every week you can say, oh, this might be match of the year. What are some of your favorites watching this year, being in the back as a fan of wrestling, some of the matches you've seen this year?
You really put me on the spot there, boys.
I mean, come on. Is he going to remember something? He didn't remember that he got a Hero's Welcome in Canada. Where he's not going to remember big matches?
I'm half asleep. The CTE
Orange Cassidy versus someone. You can just say that. You're good.
You know, that's lovely. I love. There's a great blood and guts match. I love the blood and guts match.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Very good. Very good.
What are goals now for you going forward? I know we've talked to you, you know, when Jericho Appreciation Society was going on, you talked about how much of a dream come true that was, you know, working with, you know, again, a Canadian, you know, somebody, one of your countrymen and a hero there. And now that group is dissolved and you're starting to evolve the character, what do you think some of your goals for 2024 are?
Yeah. You know, I don't really know where the Daddy, what is the path for Daddy Magic moving forward? And I have to figure that out, like a specific goal and path. And it's something that I'm thinking about every day. Like, so I can't really give you a specific answer because I haven't figured it out exactly. You know, I have to see where all the chips lay in the next couple of weeks here and go on from there, because everybody kind of has their own side story going on here. Like, Garcia's in the tournament that's going to be coming to an end. Angelo Parker is chasing a lady. Jake is obsessed with a hat. A lot of things are going on, and I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. This is an honest answer. I don't know if I want to be a part of that. Okay, so we're going to figure things out.
Okay, so let Good Karma Wrestling help you then. If you figure things out, let's see if we can help you.
Please.
Our idea is Daddy Magic everywhere. You're popping up on all the shows, commentator, promo, match, Ring of Honor. You're everywhere. So the whole thing is that we got to get you everywhere, especially in the commentary booth, because it's more of your personality. We got to expand the brand of Daddy Magic. So that's what I'm saying. So your pitch to Tony Khan is Daddy Magic everywhere, because that's what we want as Matt Menard fans.
That sounds great to me, guys. You can let the
Say it again. I'm sorry. Let's break it up. I think that was too strong for him, guys. I think it was.
Hey, look, more Daddy Magic is exactly what everybody needs, and I'm the guy that went out and bought the Daddy Magic T-shirt after we had him on last time. Like, I'm all in on Daddy Magic. I think everybody else should be all in on Daddy Magic.
I think Daddy Magic everywhere. He should keep doing commentary. I think that you pop up on promos. He should just find his way on ROH TV as well, because that personality, a guy like that, should be everywhere on AEW television. So we hope the best for him in 2024, because he's one of our best guests that we had this year.
Always love talking with Matt Menard. Always a pleasure to catch up with him. And I've got a funny feeling he's going to be back on the program in 2024. I'm hoping for big things for him. I know he was talking about trying to figure out kind of reinventing what he looks like. And I think we're starting to slowly see some of that, him being serious in the exchange in the recent promo he had with Daniel Garcia. I'm hoping for big things for our guy, Daddy Magic, in 2024.
Yeah, and we're looking forward to AEW World's End taking place on Long Island, Nassau Coliseum, an old wrestling venue on that Saturday night. And I think the reason why that Matt Menard, didn't know exactly what his lot in life is for 2024, the office hasn't told him yet.
Right.
I think that's the answer.
He's like the most honest person we have on the show, too. I love how guys, I don't know.
Have you gotten an email, by the way, from PR yet to edit like we had last?
Not yet.
we won't get into what we had to edit out with Matt Menard the first time around. We won't get into that.
Bro, do me a favor. He said something about 24. Could you just take that out, please? Thank you very much. Thanks. Have a good New Year.
What a guy, Daddy Magic.
We are now going to open up the door, kind of open up the curtain a little bit, give you some behind the scenes look of how this show came about with the vice president of content with Good Karma Brands, Evan Cohen. Maybe you recognize him from Unsportsmanlike on ESPN Radio, as we caught up with him earlier this week. Excited to talk to our next guest here on GKW, because you may know him as one of the three co-hosts of Unsportsmanlike, weekday mornings on ESPN Radio, but we know him as the executive vice president of content at Good Karma Brands, and really the creator of Good Karma Wrestling.
Don't blame me. Don't blame me for that.
Well, it is your fault. It's 100% your fault that this exists, and we are celebrating 100 episodes. So let's start there. What was the original idea about putting the three of us together in a podcast to talk about wrestling every week on Thursday nights?
Yeah, I'll give the audience an honest breakdown of how this all happened, because I remember it vividly. So basically what happened was, when we had a change in leadership in Chicago, our leader there, Mike Thomas, great guy that I still have a relationship with, moved to Boston, where he used to run stations. There was a gap in management at our company, Good Karma Brands. And our CEO, Craig Karmazin, said to me, hey, can you just get involved a little bit on the content side, get to know some of the teammates there. There's a lot of teammates there that I did not know. That was an amazing opportunity, not because Mike left, of course, but amazing opportunity for me to have a role to be inserted into ESPN Chicago. And so one of the teammates that I had a relationship with as a friendship and professional relationship, but not in this capacity, was Jay Hood. And so Jay Hood and I'll never forget this, we talked. So I basically talked to everybody for a half hour, 45 minutes, whatever it was, just to get to know everybody. And Jay Hood and I probably talked for close to 2 hours. We had like a scheduled 45-minute call, let's just say. And 2 hours later, of course, the fire alarm is now going off in Jay Hood's house. It's amazing. I'm trying to tell this nice story. Jay Hood, get out of there, Jay Hood. Get me in there. What is this? What is happening here? Is this like Vinnie Mac and Stone Cold?
It's a new one.
What is going on?
Oh, man. Yeah, of all the things that have happened in GKW, this is a new one. This is a new one. Is he just desperately trying to find the smoke detector now in his house?
Yeah.
Is that a regular alarm? What is that?
My guess is it was a smoke alarm, but I'm
all right. Well, I guess, God willing, Jay Hood's okay here. Hopefully he makes it out.
All right, yeah.
So, well, me telling the story without the person it's about is weird now. I can do the story. Okay.
Oh,
okay,
hey.
All right, what happened there?
What a hell of a time to burn incense. Thanks, hon. Appreciate it.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, great time to burn incense right over the fire alarm. But otherwise, it's fine. Everything's fine. Thanks.
This is like a real deep, transparent, emotional story about Jonathan Hood, and the smoke alarm goes off. So anyway, Jay Hood and I talked for 2 hours. We're talking about just a million different content-related things, life-related things. And he says, one of the things that I've always wanted to do is take the wrestling podcast I have and make it into a true show across all of the Good Karma platform. And I said, so why don't you? He said, what do you mean, why don't I? Like, it's not my choice just to have the opportunity to just flick on ESPN LA and just be on there. And I said, well, if I could help with that, would you want to do it? He said, of course. I said, would you want to do it alone? He said, well, there doesn't seem to be a reason to do it alone. Why not bring people in? So I remember what I did was I created basically a questionnaire, because I had in my mind people across Good Karma. And for those who are watching and listening who don't know Good Karma is the radio company and the marketing company, sports marketing company that owns radio stations in New York, ESPN, New York, LA, Chicago, Madison, Milwaukee, Cleveland, West Palm. So we have countless teammates, the Good Karma part of Good Karma Wrestling. So we have countless teammates all across the country. And I put together this questionnaire, something along the lines of, do you currently watch WWE? Do you have historical knowledge of WWE? Do you currently watch AEW? Do you have historical knowledge of AEW? Do you watch all the pay-per-views? And we went through the list of questions, and there were a lot of them that, like, let's just call it 10 questions, where some of our teammates would have said yes to 7 of them, but no to 3. And I felt like if we're going to do this, the no to 3 can't really work here. It has to be a yes to all 10. So from a decade plus of working with Brian on ESPN West Palm, I knew he was a yes on all of them. And I knew if a show was off, we could then do and complain about retroactively, Gabe would then do that. And so I knew that we had definitively the 3 of you. I didn't know if we had others. There were other people in the back of my mind that I thought, oh, maybe this person could do it. Maybe that person could do it. And then the 3 of you all said yes to this, to basically all of the questions, all said you were interested in doing this. And the thing that I really liked about this, and I still like 100 episodes later, is I was proven right on one thing. I said, I know these 3 very well. That even if this is not if it's the biggest show or the smallest show, what I do know is they're going to commit to doing it, and they're going to want to do it and be excited about doing it. And that is what has happened 100 episodes later, that I'm thrilled that we all got this right. We all got this experiment of using this digital platform all across all Good Karma stations right, and that you 3 have been committed from day one as if this was the biggest show you've ever had in making it the biggest show you've ever had. So kudos to the 3 of you. And kudos to Mrs. Hood for the incense with the smoke alarm.
I mean, incredible timing, because, the business is about timing. And so not so much in that spot. So we want to get your thoughts about your experience in professional wrestling, because people don't know about you being able to walk the aisle and get between those ropes. Tell us about your experience with wrestling.
Can I defer to Brian, because he was with me, to explain what happened to me and how bad of a wrestler / wrestling manager I became?
Yeah, so it was at an event that was run by a guy whose name we're not allowed to mention in the wrestling community anymore. He's sort of been excommunicated. But the backstage lead up, it was a 6-man tag. The Best Friends were involved. Tommy Dreamer was involved. Matt Stryker was involved. And Mike Babchek of SiriusXM's Morning Men, or previously Morning Men, was involved. So Evan, as the manager, was all hyped up, ready to go. Jerry Lynn was the special guest referee taking you behind the curtain. He said we needed a way to get rid of Evan and throw him out. So Evan's wrestling experience was him walking down the aisle, and within a minute of the match starting, getting the old heave-ho and sent to the back, and that was the end of it. And then getting yelled at because this guy doesn't believe in kayfabe. He tried watching from the curtain and standing at the top of the ramp. Like, get out of here, buddy.
Well, here's the problem with this. So we were asked to do this. We were happy to do it. It was a fun event. I go into New York City to do this, and the thing that they want me to do is get kicked out. And not get kicked out 10 minutes into a match, get kicked out upon arrival. And I'm looking around, and not to be rude, but I think I said to Brian, who was with me, and I'm like, why did I come here? Because it's not like this is the WWE where you can watch backstage. This is not some huge platform here. So I got kicked out immediately, and then I couldn't actually watch what I was a part of. But I will say this. Brian Rowitz was so mesmerized by the backstage because we were legitimately, I don't know if you guys have ever been backstage during the planning for wrestling matches. It's truly amazing. Watching everybody kind of go through what's going on, storylines, conversation. And for all these people like, oh, wrestling's fake, BS. Maybe the outcome is scripted in some ways, but how you get to that outcome and the storyline within the actual match is true artistry. And we watch it. And David Arquette was there, by the way. And he was taking it unbelievably serious. It was the weirdest, maybe the weirdest experience ever of my life, but I got tossed immediately.
The request I have here, Brian, can we make sure we have the picture of you two? Can we get that? Either put it on our social media feed, just insert it here post-production, because that photo is one of my favorite pictures of all time.
And Evan also pulled me away from some random indie show I was at because it was Mania weekend. So I was like, oh, I'll fly to New York, get to do this thing with Evan, but I'm also going to go to these random indie shows. I have no way around New York, so trains, Ubers, all that stuff. So I got pulled away from the show to be a part of that experience.
Are you complaining? I gave you the greatest wrestling experience of your life.
Wait. Cool. What did you miss? What indie show did you miss? There has to be a specific match that you were looking forward to that you decided to skip to go do this.
I don't remember the main event. I do remember missing JD Drake. I left halfway through his match, and anytime he's out there, meaty man slapping meat, he's one of those guys. So I had to miss that full match.
I love the idea that Evan was trying to give you a little Bobby Valentine. Like, I'm kicked out, but I'm still around. I love the idea.
I wear the glasses and the mustache. Yeah, I want to be in there. I want to be in the event. Well, I can't be in there.
I love that. I love that aspect of it. That's great.
And it's so crazy, Evan. I mean, we were mentioning Mike Babchek, and when you were doing that show, it seemed like anytime you guys would do a professional wrestling segment, like people just flocked to it. Like the thirst for professional wrestling content is certainly out there.
Oh, no question. And even, so that show was 12 years. I was unbelievably fortunate enough to be a part of it. And since being a part of Unsportsmanlike on ESPN Radio, Pat Costello, one of our producers, is an obsessive wrestling fan also. I think, Jay Hood, you've been on his podcast is maybe like a little one as well. He did for a while. I think you were a guest on it, but we learned that across Pat's whole apartment, he has tons of like wrestling gear and little figurines, and that he's really into it. And the moment we reveal that on the show, again, it's the same thing. People light up with that. We've talked about a lot of things internally in our company about history has an echo. Right? We've talked about that a lot in content world. Like if you bring up nostalgia, people get into it. 1980s wrestling, unbelievable. 90s wrestling, unbelievable. Any walk of life, you go to a dinner party and you randomly bring up 90s wrestling, people would be into it. It's that kind of thing that it's so universally appealing for so many people.
So we got to ask you about that with Pat, because the three of us were actually in the same room at the same time. That's one of the best moments of Good Karma Wrestling, that we were at StarCast in suburban Chicago to be able to do several shows, providing content, and some breaking news came out of that because CM Punk got fired that weekend. So that was a great weekend for Good Karma Wrestling.
We had CM Punk on, right, Brian?
We did. We got him basically telling us to F off over the phone. It was about 30 seconds, but Dean Thomas, a respective MMA analyst, was in the gym with him, and I handed the phone to him. He said bye, and that was it.
Yeah.
Huge get by me.
Yeah. Typical Chicago. I can't be surprised at that. Typical Chicago. But so I got to ask you about these figurines, though. I mean, so we saw figurines. We're at StarCast. We saw guys walking around with championship belts. How do you feel about that, Evan, as an adult? Should you have wrestling figures? Should you walk around with championship belts as an adult? Fully formed adult, of course.
Yeah. I think if you're looking to have a significant other, no. I think once you have a significant other, yes. I'm all about honesty and transparency. I think those are the kind of things you hold back until after you have that significant other, regardless of gender. I don't give a crap about who you love and who you marry. I just think the facts. Maybe when she or he is, or that person is your person, maybe then you bring it up. Like, I know Brian's wife pretty well. She's known him for a long period of time. She's fully aware of his patheticness. Loving wrestling is not pathetic.
No argument.
Loving wrestling is not pathetic. The financial commitment he has made to loving wrestling without wrestling financially committing back to him, little pathetic.
No argument. Yeah, it is what it is.
I did ask Gabe because I didn't know if Gabe wanted to. I was going to offer to buy him a championship belt, and he's like, nah. I said, okay, well, all three of us are not belt marks then. Okay, we're not going to walk around this hotel with a belt as if we're champions. So we're all good there.
I will tell you, the president and CEO of our company, Steve Palazzino and Craig Karmazin and I, when we used to go to the Final Four, we would wear jumpsuits to the Final Four for all 3 days of the Final Four that we were there, because we wanted people to think we were coaches, because the coaches only wore the jumpsuits. So I guess I can't even knock that. And I said, like, oh, yeah, we're from Yeshiva.
It's the best.
Wait, so they were just like nondescript jumpsuits? Did they have logos on them? Like, did you ever go as far to pretend to be from like Kansas?
No, I bought new Jumpman ones every single year, Gabe. Literally, I have Jumpman jumpsuit every single year.
Yes, because that
to toot our own horn a little bit more.
Yeah.
Most impressive guests we've had: Ric Flair, Cody Rhodes, Medusa, the Blue Meanie. Who have you been most impressed by?
Blue Meanie.
Give us the Barber Beefcake.
I would say Flair. I think getting Flair. I think we need. Okay, I'm going to give a wish list for 2024 for the next 100 shows.
Okay.
Oh boy.
Here we go. Yellow pad.
I want the heart.
We're taking notes. Taking notes.
Kid. I want the Heartbreak Kid. Oh, Sean.
That's possible.
HBK. That's who I want on.
Okay. Bro, that's easy. Mr.
Yeah.
He's willing to promote anything lately. Sean will do it.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm in. Let's do it.
All right. Well, listen, I have to go. I want to take up too much more of your time, but here's what I want to say. In all seriousness, the GKW fandom has been great. The GKW, the media that you guys have garnered has been amazing. And I couldn't be more happy for the three of you in doing what you've done. Congratulations on 100 episodes. And I'm not surprised in any way, shape, or form. I knew that you guys would commit to it. I know you have gear that Jay Hood has paid for himself, I think. So congratulations. Here's to 100 more. And on to GKW.
Evan, we certainly appreciate the time. Thanks for jumping on, and thanks for creating the show.
Thank you, guys.
A big thank you to Evan Cohen, to Craig Karmazin. 100 episodes, boys. It's been so much fun. Like I didn't realize we were coming up on 100 episodes until Brian's like, "Hey, that's coming up here soon." So it has been a blast. To have an outlet to talk about things that so many of my friends like, Gabe, why are you talking to me about this? I don't want you. So I am just to have this outlet. That's why I'm glad to have Good Karma Wrestling and this show in my life now.
Well, ultimately, this has become a safe space for us because when others don't want us to talk wrestling, we can talk wrestling to each other and to our audience. And so for me, I've been doing pro wrestling content since the Monday Night Wars. And this is the most fun I have all week. I know that that's going to be a shock to my radio partner, David Kaplan, or my broadcast partners that I do with UIC Flames. But I will just tell you that this is the most fun I have all week because we get a chance to be able to just unwind and talk about the world of wrestling. When we started this show, it was just, kind of a nice opportunity to talk about WWE and other stuff. And now through 100 episodes, we've talked about so many things, so many scandals. We talked about the biggest scandal, one of the biggest scandals in the history of the business, and Vince McMahon being ousted, being pushed out of the company, bro. And so for me, I love doing this show, and it just gives me a respite to just relax and have fun, talk about crazy stuff that's happening in the world of wrestling.
Quick question for you. When we started this show 100 episodes ago, did you think that you were going to become our ROH guy?
I knew that coming. I knew that anyway. I knew that I had to be able to do something because of our busy schedules. Somebody had to sacrifice. This guy sacrifices NXT. I sacrifice ROH, and you sacrifice Marquette. So
yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I sacrifice. I don't know what I'm gravitating towards, but we'll figure it out.
So
there's still so many cool moments, like the guests, like, next week we'll play a lot of the best of 2023, but some of the people that have given us their time and like as honest they are, StarCast opening their doors to us and, sitting down with some of those really guests. Cool. Like, I feel like the Blue Mini could do another 2 hours with us if we wanted to talk Eagles football right now. So it's cool to see all these things happen in 100 episodes.
Yeah. And we're just grateful to the audience because again, just to be able to get on YouTube and to grow our YouTube. And we thank you for watching on YouTube for our podcast. You guys have been there for a long time for us on the podcast. And then of course our channels, our stations around Good Karma. I mean, it took us a while to get on Land on Demand in Cleveland, and it's actually one of our biggest cities now, right? Nobody wants to see us in Cleveland. Nobody cares in Cleveland. Cleveland's a huge wrestling city. LA, New York, big wrestling cities. Milwaukee, Chicago, West Madison, a big wrestling company. So, we have we have all of our cities that we're on and all the points in between. We thank you for supporting us through 100 episodes of Good Karma Wrestling.
Here's to 100 more, guys. Our best of a lot of those interviews that Brian was just referencing. We will play those next week, and we'll be back. Can't wait for 2024. 2023 was big, but pro wrestling just keeps getting better. This has been GKW.